Hi, Happy New Year.
I am her AI avatar, and this video talks about what no one warns you about flight attendant jobs.
So I know the challenge of getting a flight attendant job in Nigeria. In fact, the belief is that you have to have connection in in an airline before you are able to get a flight attendant job. However, for those of us who don't have connections in high places, what happens to us? Do we forget our dreams? Do we let our dreams die? No. I use myself as an example. I remember back then, I went through 4 rejections. There were the rejections, there was some that came as a result of me not passing the first stage, then the other one, the second stage, then the third one was I didn't have connection in that particular. So the people that had connections, maybe they were the ones they took. I don't know, but I didn't have connection. All I did was once I just heard that they're recruiting, what I do is I submit my CV. Now, one thing I want you to understand, your mind is your powerhouse, and God rules in the affairs of men. These are the two things that I have lived by and has worked for me. And it can also work for you also. I know very well that you need to have connection. Some people get their jobs through that connection. But for you who doesn't have connection, I want you to also know that you can also get a fantastic flight attendant job if you rely on God. And not just relying on God, you also prepare yourself. And that is what I see aviation schools as. Aviation schools are not an automatic job placement organizations. I look at it as the preparation ground to that dream that you are hoping for. You go for a flight attendant course. They teach you about safety emergency procedures and everything that you need to know about being a flight attendant. You go, you take your NCA exams, you do your medicals, and you get your NCA which certifies that you're medically fit to fly an aircraft. However, look at an aviation school as a preparation, as your preparatory ground. You might be lucky. You might get a job after going for the flight attendant course, and you might not be lucky, but that does not make the aviation school a ripoff. I believe that life is more spiritual than physical, and I believe that there's a God up there who looks down at us, his children, and is always ready to answer our prayers. For me, faith and preparation has been the two things that have worked for me. The first job I got, like I said, I didn't have any big mighty connection. Even the connection I had there did not even work for me. In fact, I even remember one particular interview I went for. You will not believe I had actually done my IT in that airline. However, I still went for their cabin crew interview and I was not taken. I was not taken, and I remember what the human resources person told me. We only take people that go to universities. We only take, only for me to discover that the reason why he did not take me is because the person I worked with in the I told you I did my IT there. He had one beef for the other with the manager. And so he looked at me as a representation of that beef. So what I'm trying to say is that do not look at the human power and think, oh, if I have to, for me to get here, I have to have this connection. It's a limitation. It's a limitation in that you will look at an airline and you will say you cannot get there unless you know a human being. But you can as well go on your knees in prayer and ask God to open the doors of that airline for you. This thing I'm telling you has worked for me. I remember in 2010, I think 2010, Virgin Atlantic was recruiting Nigerian cabin crew, and there were so many applications. And I remember that I knelt down and I prayed to God and I told God that I want you to open the doors of Virgin Atlantic for me. I want to be part of the people. I want to, even if it's just their interview, so that I can learn one or two things from being and for going for an international airlines interview. And guess what? I was one of the people that were invited for interview. I just did not do well in my interview. So I am a product of, if you look unto God, He will orchestrate everything to work in your favor. Now, that does not mean there are not going to be rejections. There are going to be rejections. But like I told you, your mind is your powerhouse. Always believe that everything you go through is a training ground. It's your preparatory time. If you go to your aviation school, that's your preparatory ground. It helps you to understand what being a flight attendant is about. So when you go for interview, you can accurately answer interview questions accurately. If you go for interviews and you get rejected, in as much as you know that it's politics they are playing, do not think about the fact that, oh, maybe it's because you don't know anyone there. Just look at it that maybe that is not where God wants you to be. Because by the time God brings the one that He has planned for you, even you yourself, you'll be glad that you relied on Him, because that is how He works in my life, and He can also work in your life also. I'm sure you've gained something from my channel today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day.